what's your take on logic games, and what's your number one tip for people to improve logic games? Because I found that it is the easiest to improve, and you can get 100% consistently, unlike with logical reasoning or reading comp. So what's your number one tip for people that might be struggling with logic games now and hate them?
Yeah, sure. Well, I would say do a lot of games. That's the only way to get better at them is through increased familiarity. And I love them now. They're my favorite section now. Maybe they're kind of tied with logical reasoning, maybe, but I'd say that they're my favorite. They're one of my favorites now. I love them now because they're so mathematical. And I'm not a math person, but the kind of way of thinking they test is actually pretty streamlined. There's not that many varieties that they can have on the exam. And so if you've done a handful of the older games, then you'll be well prepared for whatever you might encounter on LSAT test day. So at first, of course, you're going to bomb them. That's normal. That's natural, especially if you're from more of a humanities background. But you do them by type and grouped by style or format. For example, there are a lot of games that have repeated over time with only slight variations. I have a whole list of them I could rattle off, but I'll give one example. There's this game from Prep Test 33, Game 2, which is The Birds in the Forest. It's a classic logic game that's often used for instructional purposes because it tests these basic concepts in a very straightforward way. And there have been like 6 other games on the LSAT over the years in subsequent exams that are just like it. And so if you master that old one, you'll be ready for the new ones that come later. I should mention there's also a lot of value in redoing the same exact game again and again and again. That's something I should really emphasize, I think. Like when I first started teaching this exam, the newest book of exams was the set in the 30s, 29 to 38. And I taught those same games like literally hundreds of times. And doing a particular game for the 100th time or the 200th time, I might see a slight nuance that I hadn't seen in any of the previous attempts, or maybe a more efficient way to do it. And so I'm not saying you should do it 100 times, but even doing the same game 5 or 10 times, you'll start to see new angles on it or techniques you could use to solve it that you previously hadn't.